His picture appeared on the most iconic issue of Life magazine in history, making him a devilish worldwide phenomenon. This image left him regarded as the very face of evil, because the media said so. The breaking news stories, the magazine articles, the newspapers, and the entire world featured his name in the headlines, stating he was guilty because the media said so. In reality, he was convicted before his trial even began, because the media created an image of him, an image that he himself did not help to create or portray. He has spent the past 40 years in prison for crimes that he was never proved guilty of committing. Yet even today, the media uses him as a cover story, a figurehead in reference to mass murder. This is Charles Manson, the media created image of Charles Manson that the world knows, yet the truth has yet to be revealed. Charles Manson was convicted by the media, for the media. The real Charles Manson is not the Charles Manson that the media wants you to believe. And this small radio piece aims to decipher the truth about Charles Manson and deliver it to the modern world in an unbiased and mainstream media untouched way. I do not claim to be an expert in regards to the Charles Manson case, nor do I have any personal contact with Charles Manson, and I do not condone murder, crime or violence in any way, shape or form. However, I am a believer in human rights and a believer in justice, and I firmly believe that the truth is a crucial part to life progression. There is no room in the world for liars. The truth is out there, and when profit is no longer an option, the truth will be revealed. As a media student myself, I have been blessed with the information in regards to the way the media works. I know not to believe everything that I hear or read in the media, because media portrayal is not always factual. They often take a story and dramatize it for the sake of making the breaking headlines, all for the sake of profit. I aim to attempt to reveal the truth right now as best as I can, based on my own research and my own inquiries. My research and correspondence led me to a girl by the name of Star, a close personal friend of Charles Manson's, who shares the belief that the truth needs to be revealed, without the media-created misconceptions and without the media-edited stories. Throughout this piece, you will learn about the real Charles Manson from an individual that the media would like you to believe that he has none of: a friend.
My name is Star, and I'm a friend of Charles Manson. I live in Corcoran, California, and I visit him in the prison every weekend, and I also talk to him on the phone just about every day. I'm answering Wayne's questions about the trial and his image in the media and the worldwide culture and all of that.
One of the first things I asked Star in regards to Charles Manson was probably the most stereotyped Manson question out there. I inquired as to her thoughts on the treatment of Manson following his arrest, as well as whether the trial itself was handled fairly. Star revealed several facts and opinions about the trial that immediately shatter the media-created perception of the Manson trial, thus giving any listeners an immediate contrasting portrayal of Charles Manson when used in comparison to any mainstream media footage of him that the general public may have heard in the news or in the cover stories.
No, he definitely did not get a fair trial. First of all, he was portrayed in the media as guilty even before he had a pre-trial. He was on the cover of Life magazine, and I believe his pre-trial had just started when he came out on the cover of Life magazine with a story that was painting him as what the prosecutor wanted everybody to believe. He was famous just about instantly, and they were telling everybody one way, and he didn't have a chance in court. They already convicted him in the media. During his pretrial, he motioned for the right to represent himself instead of being represented by a lawyer. He was granted that right, and then it was taken away. this is illegal. Here in the U.S., we have a constitution that gives us the right of self-representation and a right to a fair and speedy trial. It's the Sixth Amendment. He did not receive that. They took it away and they lied about it. They try and say that he was denied that right of self-representation because of outlandish motions and that he was behaving outrageously. And they fail to say that the outrageous things that he did occurred well after his right of self-representation was taken away. That's the reason why he started acting out in the courtroom, is because they trampled over the Constitution. That's the reason that he took a copy of the Constitution and he put it in the wastebasket in court, because that's what they had done. He was not allowed to call one witness. The entire trial was about 8 months of prosecution testimony. The only people that testified were people that had been bribed, people that had been threatened. The main star of the prosecution, her name was Linda Kasabian. She was the person that drove the car both nights when the kids went and killed people. She was driving the car. She knew the victims. She was given immunity in exchange for testifying against Charles Manson and going along with what the prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi had to say. There were other people that were given immunity as well. I think one guy got off of a gun charge and a drug felony charge in exchange for testifying against Charles Manson. Others were threatened that their baby would be taken away. Linda Kasabian was pregnant at the time. She actually had a child while she was in jail. They just took her out to the hospital to have the baby, and they took the baby away. They threatened people with the death penalty, that if they wouldn't testify with the prosecution, then they were going to be charged with murder and they were going to get the death penalty as well. This is also very illegal. This case had nothing to do with the truth or reality in any way whatsoever. The trial was not fair. The trial was illegal.
If you take away a man's right to fair trial, and if you take away a man's right to call witnesses, and if you take away a man's right of self-representation, exactly how can there be any hope for the truth to be revealed? The courtroom is a supposed place of justice, a place where everyone gets to speak as a means of revealing the truth, as a means of separating fact from fiction. The Charles Manson case received no such treatment, which is why still to this day there are countless unanswered questions that 40 years on are still no closer to being revealed. The media is a powerful and controlling tool, and this fact set the groundwork for my next question. I asked Starr what her thoughts were on the way the mainstream media portrays Charles Manson as a person and how they portray his case, as well as whether she believes this changes the public's beliefs and perception on the case. She reveals some truly shocking facts about the way the media treats and consequently portrays Charles Manson to the general public.
The media has learned what sells, and they put Charlie's face up every time they want to get some extra ratings or whatever. They go in, they get a 2-hour interview. They take 2 minutes of it, 2 minutes of the worst stuff that they can find from the 2 hours, and they put those things on their show. They take him out of context. One example of that would be at a parole hearing. I think it was 1997 parole hearing. Charles Manson said, "I did not have anything to do with killing those people." And when he said it, he was kind of yelling because the parole board was being very stubborn. And so he said, "I did not have anything to do with killing those people." So on a show, a little while later, they said, "Charles Manson, the mass murderer," and all the things that they usually say. And then they show the clip, a video clip of Charlie, and he's saying, "Killing those people." They take out the first part where he says, "I do not have anything to do with killing those people," and they just show the part where he says, "killing those people." It's like 2 seconds, and they show that part, like a flashy for whatever they're trying to do to people's brains. So, yes, they definitely take him out of context. They provoke him. I encourage you to look up on YouTube, look up the unedited, full, uncut versions of, like, the Geraldo interview, the Tom Snyder interview, the Penny Daniels interview. They've got the uncut versions up on YouTube, and you can see how they're provoking him. They're trying to get him, so why did you do this? Oh, you're horrible. And they're provoking him. They're trying to get what they want him to say. They're trying to make him say what they want him to say. They know what they want. They know the kind of video clips that they want for their shows. And that's all they're trying to get. They don't give a fuck about an actual interview. They're just trying to get those 5-second clips of him saying something that they can twist around and make into something else. They're not taking anything into context. They're not listening to a damn word he says. Yeah, I'm very, very disgusted about the media in all sorts of directions. I think they should all be fired. I don't think they tell the truth about much of anything. And this in turn makes the general public have a certain opinion about Charlie. Even though they've never met Charlie, and even though they've never talked to anyone that has met Charlie, they see something on TV and they hear the spooky music behind it, and they see what the announcer is saying, the show host is saying, and then they see the clip, the 2-second clip of Charlie from an interview, and then they form an opinion about someone that they don't even know. I know Charles Manson, and I know what they're doing to him. And, I mean, they're not going to be able to get away with it. They've gotten away with it for 40 years, but I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to get away with it.
One of the most talked about ideas in regards to the Charles Manson case is what if Charles Manson himself was ever released back into the general public in the modern day and age. I inquired as to Star's opinions as to whether Charles Manson will ever be released back into the public, and exactly how the general public would perceive such a release.
If Charles Manson is eventually freed from prison, I don't know how people would react. If he was set free right now, people would probably be scared, because the TV has scared them. They wouldn't have anything to be afraid of in reality. I think he should be freed, definitely. I think the tides are turning, actually. There's a lot of interest, and you can find it mostly on the internet. People are becoming aware of what happened to Charles Manson, and they're becoming aware of the real man, Charles Manson. They're becoming aware through the uncut interviews. People like myself are putting recorded phone conversations of Charlie up on the internet for everyone to hear, and they're finding out about the real Charlie from himself, from Charlie himself. I think there's probably tens of thousands of people worldwide that are hip to Charlie and that believe he should be freed because he was wronged. And I believe that there are most likely tens of thousands of people who agree with him completely. You know, it all comes down to the media, because they're feeding people the shit that they want them to know. Me and Grey Wolf did an interview for CNN last year, and it turned out really good. We got to talk about Atwa, and we got a lot of good quotes from Charlie on that news show, on that little segment that they did on CNN. And that was kind of like a first for that kind of view of Charles Manson on the mainstream media. And I think that it got a lot of people thinking, and I also think that it could be changing with all the information that's available now. I think that we've got a good chance of shifting public opinion, which, don't get me wrong, I don't really give a fuck about the public opinion, but the public opinion is the reason why he's still in prison. So I want him out, obviously. So it's kind of a strange situation.
The Charles Manson that the general public knows is only the Charles Manson that has been created by the mainstream media. Starr is one of the few people that knows Charles Manson as a person, rather than a label and an out-of-context dramatised optical illusion. Everyone knows exactly how much power the mainstream media has when it comes to forcibly changing public opinion about anyone, whether celebrity, politician or otherwise. How can anyone hope to decipher the truth when the world is fueled by dramatised fiction? I then inquired as to whether there was any substance to the Manson Family label, or whether that too was media created. Starr reveals the truth behind the Manson Family label.
All the different labels that people have put on Charlie, like Jesus, the devil, the Antichrist. A lot of times I've noticed that whatever people say someone else is what they are, is what they really are. Like I saw one guy say, "Oh, Charlie's just a dirty old man." And I thought, you're a dirty old man. I think the Manson Family label, it was created by the media. There's a little truth to it. They had a singing group that they would all play different instruments and sing. They called that the Family Jams.
The individuals that perpetrated the so-called Manson family murders were just that, individuals. Charles Manson has given countless interviews over the years, many of which are edited and dramatised to depict him as a psychopath. In reality, as Starr mentioned earlier, the unedited interviews can be found if anyone listening is interested in learning more about the situation from the words of Charles Manson himself. I continued by asking Starr as to whether Charles Manson was sincere in his interviews in regards to his life and his case. I also inquired about Charles Manson's views on the environment in reference to his Atwa theory, which stands for air, trees, water and animals, the order of life. Without one, none of the others can survive. Starr reveals many facts about Charles Manson as a person, as well as how they came to become friends.
Yes, I do believe that Charlie is sincere for the most part of his interviews. One thing to keep in mind on this kind of thing is that he's dealing with what's happening right there and right now. He's dealing with ignorant people, that's why he sometimes looks mad and he's sometimes yelling in his interviews, is because, he's trying to say something that is pertaining to one thing, and then they just go right back and say, "Well, did you kill so-and-so?" They keep on that subject, and he tells them over and over again, "I didn't have anything to do with that. I don't know anything about that." And they keep going back to that subject. That's all they want to hear about. And then they start making him mad on purpose. They're trying to make him mad so that they can get that footage of him yelling and being mad. I think he is dead serious about his views on the environment, the earth. I think that's the most serious thing that he talks about, and he talks about it every day. That's just about all he talks about, actually. He's very serious. He believes that, the earth is not indestructible. He believes that if we put pollution into the air for so long, eventually we're not going to have any clean air left to breathe. And it's true, it's already happening. But people look up at the sky and they think, "Oh, I could never kill that. I could never fuck that up." But they are. The sky is immense, but what also is immense is the level at which they're polluting it. And they are affecting the earth. They're cutting down all the trees. They're killing all the animals. They are polluting all the water. Charlie's very serious about that, and so am I. That's really how we got to be friends, is because we're both serious about that subject. So yes, I do believe he's sincere in his interviews. Charlie doesn't lie. He walks a strict line. He does not lie, he does not snitch, and he does not enter into anyone's will whatsoever. He doesn't cross over the line with anyone, but he also keeps his own line, and he also keeps his own force field, so to speak. And whenever somebody enters into him with a confrontation, he deals with it accordingly. But he does not go around looking for trouble. He doesn't lie. He doesn't have any reason to lie. And he doesn't have any reason to be remorseful, as they say, because he didn't do anything that he should be remorseful about.
For 40 years, Charles Manson has not only been one of the most talked about men in history, but he has also developed a cult following for his music which he has been developing and working on for the past 40 years from his prison cell. I inquired as to Starr's thoughts on Charles Manson's music, as well as any recent developments and recent recordings from Charles Manson himself.
I really like Charlie's music. I listen to it regularly. He's had, over 40 years to play the guitar, which is true that a lot of the time he hasn't had a guitar, but for the time that he has, he's been pretty focused on it. He doesn't play music like most everyone else. He doesn't sit down and play a song. He sits down and he plays whatever comes to him at the moment. It's kind of like a stream of consciousness type thing. He rarely writes any lyrics. He just sings and says whatever is coming through his head at the moment. Actually, he's got a new album out, and it's called Air. We're releasing like a 4-part album series. The first is called Air. The next one's going to be called Trees, and then Water and Animals. This is some new stuff that he's been doing. Like I said, he doesn't really do any specific songs. He just sits down and plays whatever comes to him. And when he does that, it sounds really good. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, I don't know too many people that can just sit down and play something that they've never played before and have it sound so good. Charlie loves music. A lot of times we say that music is our religion because it's on a different level. It's on a real, like a spiritual level.
In a world where there is so much unjust, in a world where the mainstream media downplays the important aspects such as the pollution crisis, global warming, and the effects that mankind is having in regards to the countless animals currently nearing extinction, and dramatises whatever will create a profitable story instead, exactly how can you hope to decipher the truth? Starr has provided an unbiased truth on Charles Manson as a person based on her own experiences and conversations with him, as well as her own beliefs. However, it is no secret that if one person knows the truth, the opinions of the masses that have had their minds tainted by the mainstream media will prevail and create their own truth. In the final part of this piece, Starr revealed to me one of the most prominent questions about Charles Manson in the mainstream media. Is he guilty? She spoke to me about her views as to whether the truth will ever be revealed.
I do believe that Charles Manson is completely innocent. And by the way, even if he was guilty of what he was convicted for, he should have already been released. Even if he did do the things that he was convicted for. There's people that's done a lot more horrible things than that have gotten out already. I believe he's a political prisoner because,